Right, good afternoon, everyone, and morning for some of you. I recognise some email addresses in the list. Thanks for attending. This afternoon, we're just going to go over a performance testing tool we have and just give you an intro to how it works. And we're going to give you a bit of a demo. We'll move the slides on. There we go. So, quick introduction of who we are, who are Rittman Mead, a review of the sort of what the performance testing tool is all about and why we've got it, and then a sort of understanding of the framework and how it all fits together. So there'll be a demo by Luke in a minute. So we're obviously an Oracle partner, and we've been in the industry for many years, just give a quick introduction to myself. I'm Paul Schilling. I think I've met a few of you on the call, and I'm the services director here. I've got a technical background, but I'm an architect and was working with data analytics for many years. Luke's here with me to do the demo, and Luke's one of our consultants. He's also a Golden Gate expert, which is becoming more prevalent in the recent years since it's moved to Oracle Cloud, and he's also one of our data engineers. So we are a company that's formed in 2007, and a lot of you will know this because you've probably seen some of these slides. We're all about making the best out of your Oracle data and analytics. We've obviously got a lot of accreditations and in the industry, and we've got a number of Oracle ACEs. So today, we're talking a little bit about the performance testing tool. So we do a lot of cloud migrations for clients these days. So we're trying to get them onto the Oracle Cloud, and we need to make it as seamless as possible and make sure we don't upset the end users. And we're talking specifically around Oracle Analytics in this instance. We have a sort of a cloud migration approach and framework that we've been following and refining over the last few years. And one part of that is making sure that the infrastructure is set up as it needs to be, it's benchmarked, and everything is tested and working. So as part of that process, we're obviously interested in performance of the reporting, and we need to make that as good as possible. The infrastructure stuff we're not going to go into today. We're not going to go into the front-end reporting testing, so that's the user front end. What we're going to be showing is how we test the reports against the new database that it'll go to. So if we're moving to Oracle Cloud, how do we make sure that the autonomous data warehouse, as an example, is performing as well as the on-premises servers that you had, or the Amazon servers that you were using, and that database there. So we want to make sure that the business is going to be absolutely happy with the performance of these reports. Now, in this case, this is step 2. We've already tested the benchmark, the database and the networking and all of that side of things. Now we're testing the database, the SQL that's running in the database. And then the next step is we would use something like Jamie to test the front-end reports and dashboards. So really the uses of this tool is to test the performance that we're getting on the database from a reporting perspective. We can also use it because of the output of the tool. We can use it to sort of look at how we can performance tune the reports, and we can also use it to stress test the database as well. So if we want to go for a autonomous data warehouse, again as the example, and we want to prove that it scales, and we want to really show that that works efficiently, we can put more load on the database by manipulating this tool to sort of generate more data and put more load on. So there's a few use cases there. There's probably others. You can use it. It is a tool that just runs on an Oracle database, and it uses Oracle Analytics logging information to do that. So what are we actually doing? what we really want to do is take the load out of a production database. So we want to make sure we can simulate what's going on a day-to-day basis in a production database. And so, as you're probably aware, if you have Oracle Analytics, OBIE, OAS, or OAC, there is a set of tables called usage tracking. When you turn that usage tracking on, as you can see from this diagram, basically when you run the reports, it creates some SQL. The SQL not only gets the data back and feeds it back into the reporting engine, it also stores that report SQL in the database in a table. It gives us a time when it was executed, how long it took, and it gives the SQL itself. So obviously we're able to see throughout a month, a year, a quarter, how many people are using the system, what reports have been run, what the load is at a particular time on that database, just for the analytics. Now, obviously, there are other factors we would have to take into account if we wanted to do some realistic load. So if we had ETL running on an hourly basis, we'd want to run the ETL as well. But this just highlights how we can actually capture the reports that have been executed. So we take that usage data, and from that, we're able to simulate daily load. We're able to find worst performing reports. We're able to compare performance from what it was on premises or the old database you're using to now. And as I said, we can stress test as well. And we can play with how we run the SQL. So we can run it in parallel, we can run it as it was on the day. You can sort of use it in many different ways once you've got this framework in place. So that's kind of what we're demonstrating today. It's proved out to be very useful on many projects, and we've been able to take massive reporting systems, identify worst performing reports, and tweak them and bring them back in line to how they used to run. And it does give us a really good way of sort of measuring how big that autonomous data warehouse needs to be, or the scaling we might need as well. So that's kind of a bit of an overview. I'm going to hand over to Luke now, who's going to go through some more of the technical side of it, and hopefully give you an insight of how useful this is. Yeah, I'll hand over to Luke.
Yeah. Right, cheers, Paul. So I'm going to be giving a demo on how we use the database performance tester to test our Oracle Analytics training schema, training instance. So first, we're going to look at the backend of the database performance tester. So we have the database performance schema, which contains a bunch of tables and procedures. The tables we're looking at now, and then I'll go show those procedures, which is how you set up the tester and then running it and the results. So the tables we use, we have the database table, which stores the database connection to your Oracle Analytics backend. So this is what the database performance tester will use to test your queries against. We have the scripts. The scripts are extracted from usage tracking. So what they'll get is they'll get the report name, the dashboard name, their location, and the report SQL behind it. And that's all turned into a script which can be used in scenarios, which I'll explain later on. We have the baseline table, which it stores the data from usage tracking. So in usage tracking, you get the report and everything behind it, but you also get the runtime, how many rows it returned, and this stores that so we can use it in comparisons later on. We have the history table, which contains the physical hash ID. So a physical hash ID is unique to each piece of SQL. If the SQL behind two reports is the same, then they'll have the same physical hash ID. And this is used for the history so that we could get every run in a time range for comparison. Now, the scenarios are what are used by the database performance tester. So a scenario is a group of items which I've shown here. And the items contain a scenario ID and the script ID, so you can relate a script to a scenario. And then you can also add a sequence or a delay for testing purposes. So a sequence would mean you can choose the order in which the scripts run, and a delay would mean you can add a delay between each run if needed. Now, to fill these tables, you need to run a few procedures. You need to create the scenario itself. You then need to extract the usage tracking queries, and then you need to extract the scenario history. And doing this will help create a full scenario for each test. So to do that, we would go first to insert a scenario. You want to just use an insert statement. So we'll use the day-to-day. And then once that's inserted, we can get the scenario ID, which is what we'll use to fill it up. So here we have our scenario that we just created. It's got 381 as the scenario ID, so we'll use that. So next we want to use the load usage tracking queries. So we can use the scenario ID, give a new baseline ID, and we're going to extract every run of a report from 9:30 this morning until current time, which is this date. So once that's run, we can check the DPT scenario item table. And if we use the same scenario ID, we'll be able to see if it's extracted scripts. So here you can see all of the scripts that it's grabbed using a procedure, and now the scenario will run these when it's run by the database performance tester. And finally, we can get the history for these scripts. So each of these scripts will have a physical ID, and that's used in this procedure. So we'll be finding every historical run of the reports since the 1st of October 2023, which is a little over a year. So now that we've done that, we're able to move over to the database performance tester. So if we use the scenario ID, which is 381, and then we'll use the same database connection ID, we can do a run of the report, the scenario. And this will run through every script one by one and move all of the data into the results table. So now we're outside of the schema. The database performance tester uses the connection and scenario and produces results. These results, along with the baseline table and the history table, will be used by the OAC report, and that can be used for analysis and comparisons later on. So main tables here for the results are DPT scenario run, which tracks every run done using the database performance tester. So here we can see our currently running scenario, along with when it started, and once it's done, it will give records received and total runtime. And we also have the scenario run ID. And in the scenario item run, we're able to see every individual script that is being run. So here we have our scenario ID, and you can see all of the scripts that it's been running. Paul mentioned that we can also use this for stress testing. So the procedures that I've executed will grab all select statements from the reports, from the usage tracking. However, you're able to insert and create your own scripts and scenarios. So, for example, for a client earlier this year, we created a scenario with a bunch of inserts and updates, and we used that to stress test against our their new Golden Gate instance. That really helped with figuring out how much, I'm not sure if Golden Gate is too well known, but it helped figure out how much each process could handle and helped us analyze the data properly. So now that this is run, we've got the scenario run ID 561. We can see that it took just under 2 minutes to run, and we can use that in the OAC reports. So here we've created some reports to help analyze the data that is produced by the database performance tester. This first report is used to compare each individual script identified by the script ID against how long it took to run. In the blue, we have the baseline duration, which is how long it took to run according to the usage tracking. And in the purple, we have how long the script took to run in our database performance tester. And this is good for knowing what scripts are heavier, what scripts process more data. And it can also help you identify which scripts are running slow. So if you want to look into it, you can use the report analysis, which we'll talk about in a second. You're also able to see an aggregated view of those results. So if a script is run multiple times, it's now stacked into here. So here we can see lab 6, the draft was run 4 times, and overall it still performed better with the database performance tester. Next, we have the time differences. These time differences are a simpler view of the results. So it just shows how much of a time improvement each script has from the OAS to the database performance tester. You can see only one report has actually been affected negatively. Next, we're able to view a refined view. So we're able to see how many reports are tested. So we executed 46 reports there, which resulted in a 36-second time save. And we can see our top 10 performing reports alongside our bottom 10 performing. However, most of these reports are quite small, so there's not much improvement and it will vary. So most of these are around a second time saved. And the ones that haven't improved have still, it's not too much of a worry as this is just under 200 milliseconds. Next, we'll look into a report analysis. So with report analysis, you can select a script and you can view the past of that script. So here we're able to see all of the scripts that contain this, that are related to it, which means they all have the same physical hash ID. So it's all running the same SQL behind it. These are the reports that it relates to. So we have all of these scripts are related to this report. They all have the same physical hash ID, and the report SQL is here. The history here can be used to see if there's any irregular results. So here we have a 20-second run, which is irregular, but it went back down, so it's not too much of a worry. And we're also able to review the SQL here, which can be useful to see if you're retrieving useless information or if you can add filters to help improve your runtime. We also have report comparison. So if we were to compare 2 reports, for example, we have a draft here. So it's a lab 6 draft, which is 1,482. And we should also have, here we go, a top customers by revenue. So this is what the draft turned into afterwards. And we can review the difference. So if we compare those 2 reports, oh, I got the wrong one. 1483. It's my bad. Here we go. You're able to get a refined comparison of those 2 scripts without having to look at other scripts and being able to clearly see the performance. You're also able to add more script IDs if needed. It's not just set to 2, but for this example, we only have these 2. And you're able to see that the draft is performing worse than the revenue, but they're both outperforming in the database performance tester. I think I'll hand it back to you, Paul.
Okay. So yeah, we've successfully used this quite a few clients now. Depending on how much sort of tuning you've done on your database or tuning you've done on the the reports in the database side of things, obviously makes quite a lot of difference in terms of when you move to something like the autonomous data warehouse, and we do find sort of outliers cropping up that you do have to tweak and modify. And it's really helped with these migration tasks and give the business quite a lot of confidence that they're going to get the same or better performance when they migrate. So it's been a useful, one of the useful tools that we use to migrate people successfully. We're going to do another short webinar on the front end testing, so actually simulating users running OAC reports. For that, we use JMeter, and again, we're looking at trying to simulate days of load and just make sure that the front end does what it's meant to do, because obviously it is retrieving data from those SQL queries you've just seen run, and you just want to make sure that analytics server is going to perform equally as well. And you can combine the two sets of results to sort of prove or get sign off when you do migrate up onto the cloud. But as I say, it's generally quite a useful tool for testing database performance from overall. So if you're interested in any of the services, you've obviously got our details, but please let us know. Just wondering if there's any questions in the background. Going to take over the screen. Just looking for someone, any interested questions, and if not, probably about finished. Okay, I haven't got any questions at the moment. If anyone's interested in more details or needs some help setting this up and some engagement, let us know. And that's us finished. Thanks very much for attending. Have a good afternoon.